Now, my next list for 2020 top performers or top disappointments, I'm going to talk about shoes that are good, but uh, a little bit lacking. A little bit could have been better. So this would be my could have been better list. Kyrie 7. Kyrie continued to the Kyries continue to carry on its silhouette in terms of design, its traction, a little bit of a experimentation that actually seems to work most of the time. I think this works again, great traction, and I like the fact that they have that elf nose, elf shoe type of thing on the heel where it's actually open this way instead of cutting into your Achilles heel. I usually had the problem in a lot of Kyrie models, so this is definitely an improvement in terms of design for the Kyrie 7. Traction again, it's excellent, and they always had the zoom turbo on the forefoot and nothing in the heel, but they tried to make the heel foam a little bit more giving. Very microscopically, it's gotten better over the years. Better than the 5s, better than the 6, better than the 7. The 7 got a little bit better, but it's still very minimal. So you do need to find a special type of insoles that provide some additional shock absorption in the heel. Fortunately, I found some, but I don't think they're available around the world. It's a Korean company called Prospex. They came up with what they call simply named the EVA insole, but it's EVA, but it feels like Ortholite. It's very minimal on the forefoot, but on the heel they have a little bit of elevation and a little bit of a puck of a shock absorption point, and it works nicely with shoes like the Why Not 03s or the Kyries or even the Kobe's, where the heel is a little lacking in the cushioning. So the Zoom Turbo always seemed to be making progress for Kyrie 7. So this is the poor man's Kobe 5 Pro Trust, which is an impossible shoe to get and way overrated. So Kyrie 7 is my pick for. I wish they could have put a softer foam in the heel, or maybe put a React on the heel, which is what they did with a lot of other models that was pretty impressive. So KD 13, initially I wasn't really impressed, but it's kind of like the Harden 4s. Different materials at different fit, and different midsole had a little bit more of a different bounce or fluffiness, or I guess stepping comfort. So it was a bit of a strange mystery as well, the KD 13s, but depending on the colorway you get, but it's not a huge difference, but especially the upper material, it actually can really dictate the fit as well. For the KD 13s, the KD series always come in really narrow sizes, except for KD 9. All the KDs I usually have to go up at least half a size. For this I had to go up more than a whole size up, and yeah, it was dangerously close to biting at my pinky toe area. The full-length Zoom Strobel is good. It worked for the Zoom universe, but of course when you have a full-length Zoom Air that's flat, you do feel like you need something extra on the heel, because your weight there will be a lot more weight on the heel. So when KD 12 actually had a little coin size Zoom Air in the heel to reinforce that, I was glad. But unfortunately the KD 12 had a very solid encasing around the heel, and I don't know what kind of foam material they used, but the foam was not that giving. The Zoom Strobel was the only cushioning that you could actually feel working in the KD 12s. So what they did differently for KD 13 is that even though it's an extra zoom unit at the bottom of the Zoom Strobel on the forefoot, because of how it's working in tandem on the forefoot, there's a little bit more of a, I guess, inflation on the heel, because the Zoom unit is a whole connected tissue. So when there's a little bit more compression here, even if it's flat, you do feel the extra Zoom Air on the forefoot working. So when that area is going to the heel, so it provides a nice little balance. There is a decent heel to toe drop, so it worked nicely. But I did crack my toenails playing in them because they're very narrow. So that's something you need to keep in mind. If it fits your foot, good. If it doesn't, don't try to go up a few sizes and hope that it'll work. It might not. The traction is good. It's similar to I would say the octopus tentacle traction that you've seen in the Why Not 02s, but it's a little bit wider and it's a little bit more giving, but it's decent. The heel was a little bit of a concern because the rubber outsole seemed to be a little bit exaggerated and large, so I was concerned about the double thud, like the thud. You need to land flat on your foot, otherwise on the corner you will feel that impact. But fortunately, depending on the colorway, depending on the different density midsole that seemed to be used for different colorways, it worked for certain materials. The first colorway was a little bit firmer on the heel, so all in all, good. The Why Not 03 SC is another bit of a disappointment. Like the KD13 is a disappointment because of the unusual fit and the randomness of the colorways feeling a little bit different, performing a little bit different. The Why Not 03 SC, Why Not 03 was a nice model, but you could feel the forefoot zoom and the heel was pretty rigid. So the heel was even harder than the Kyrie's, I think. So that was definitely no. But the 03 SCs actually had a more forgiving overall midsole unit. So it felt plusher than the Kyrie 6 or other models, the previous PG3s or other models that did not have anything in the heel except what they call that injected Phylon or plain EVA foam. I don't know how they aerated or control the density for the Why Not 03 SCs, but they were better. The reason why the reason why this is it comes up a little bit short is because the 03 traction was, compared to the standard that Nike has been displaying recently, is pretty lousy. It's Adidas grade, so they did not make upgrades or changes to that for the SCs. If only they did that, they would have been making the top pick list for me. The New Balance Kauai, it's a decent shoe. The cushioning is certainly leaps and bounds better than the Omnis. The fit is better than the Omnis, but we're not comparing every shoe to the Omnis. The Omnis was a sore disappointment. The Kauai had a decent traction, interesting pattern. The cushioning was really good. I liked the fact that they added an additional foam layer on the heel to make sure there's a little bit of a different density and response in the heel than the forefoot. The heel was plush, and the forefoot cushioning, you can actually feel it without the insole, so that is definitely a plus. But the fit is a little bit unusual, and I don't know why they had to add all those unnecessary leather materials on the forefoot or select parts. And the heel cup, right above the heel cup, there is a very rigid heel support thingy, or just the heel part is really rigid, so it really will dig into your Achilles unless you're wearing really thick socks or unless the shape is ergonomically suited for your unique foot, but it's going to be dangerous. Thankfully, Jamal Murray's signature seems to be a bit of a version 2.0 of the New Balance Kauai's, and it's lower. Overall, they used a knit material, and the heel cup has been reduced or changed so that the heel is a lot lower and softer. So I'm looking forward to that. If it has the same midsole as the Kauai's and a much better, softer upper material, that would have been my top pick. And of course, it's crazy expensive and it's heavy, so that's why it's a little short of being a top performer. Jordan 35s. I love the fact that they've put really thick zoom in on the heel that you could see compared to the 34s, which had a little coin-sized zoom here. But here's the difference. The heel cushioning works better for the 34s because that coin-sized zoom here is right underneath your insole, so you can feel it working. The 35 huge volume zoom here is right at the outsole. So what they did was they did not put a lot of padding or a lot of midsole around that zoom here. So even though you have that large volume zoom here, you feel there's a reverse heel to toe drop or toe to heel drop, so you feel your heel sinking a little bit. So that's not good. That's not a good feeling, and that's not good for your Achilles if you're playing with a shoe that's got a sunken heel. The good thing is they actually got rid of the Eclipse plate that stretches to the heel. The 34s was a little clunky because those two edges of the eclipse plate, they make sure, unless you land straight away directly like this on your heel, if you land a little bit funny, the plate will be in your way and you could slip and fall, and the shock absorption is not there. If you don't land flat on your foot, it could be dangerous. 35 took care of the problem. The eclipse plate was reduced to take more of an area near the midfoot area, so the heel was a little bit freer. But again, it was better, but not great. They misplaced the zoom air. The forefoot zoom air is the same as the 34s, but you don't feel it as well as you did with the 34s. Partly because the midsole, it's a lot more rigid compared to 34s, so it's really resisting the opportunity to let the zoom air work right below your foot. Also, the eclipse plate is a little funny. It's hugely elevated in the midfoot, and there are certain pinching points. You need to have an insole with a bit of a plate to avoid having that pinching sensation, because the eclipse plate will get you, because it's elevated in the core, but you can feel a little bit of a compression on the heel and the forefoot. So what will happen? The elevation of the midfoot is going to pinch you in certain ways. So that's a tragic design flaw.